All right. Well, welcome in to the Friday edition of the Fat Beans Roasting Laboratory. Again, on a Friday in my basement. So, we will be doing some more exploration into the world of different flavors of coffee. And we'll be doing so by finishing off this half pound of Ethiopian. Did this Ethiopian last week. It is a dry process, meaning that it was naturally or dry process. The berries fell off. It has a very rich berry notes, including blackberry, dried blueberry. I did take this a little bit darker last time than I was intending to do. So with this roast tonight, I want to make sure I keep it light. So I'm going to have to watch the roast very carefully. Make sure I'm keeping track of some of the both the sound and smell elements to make sure that we don't take this one too dark, because by taking as dark as I did, I think I entered into well into medium. And although Ethiopians aren't bad roasted medium, they really the intention behind the process and the flavors that are noted on the bag are really best preserved if you keep it light. So we want to get it right to about first crack. Let the first crack kind of go through and then cut it off. So that will be our plan for our coffee tonight. Also, we will be doing a quick brew. The same thing that I brewed on Wednesday. It is a Burundi that I took a little bit lighter, and to be honest with you, it is probably one of the more complex coffees that I've ever brewed. Well, Irish Eyes 440, hello, and how are you doing? So, first time seeing you in the chat. Now, I do have the pleasure of knowing you in person, but it is good to see you in the chat. We should have some people filing in, but the beanheads or the loyal beanheads might be in tonight. Friday shows are kind of a mixed bag, but welcome into the chat. If you've got questions about coffee or really anything, drop them in, and while we are roasting and drinking coffee tonight, we will try to answer those, or at least I'll make up an answer. All right. So we're going to be just tasting this. Now, honestly, when I say just tasting it, really my intention behind this Burundi is just to drink coffee at 8:30 at night. Don't recommend it if you are not an avid coffee drinker, or if you don't have two kids that keep you up all hours of the night. I don't recommend drinking coffee this late. In fact, in a normal day, I usually try to limit my coffee consumption between 9 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So I don't usually like to have coffee before 9 o'clock in the morning. Now you're like, there's no way I could do that. There's a bunch of different things I've read that say the caffeine in coffee is most effective when your cells are well hydrated. So they recommend that you are up for 2 hours. Now, anymore, I'm usually up by about 5 a.m. So I could probably be more around the lines of 7 a.m. I generally try to not have my first cup of coffee until I've been awake for 2 hours. And then 2 p.m. is a good cutoff. Again, like I said, I drink a lot of coffee, so it doesn't necessarily phase me to the point where it keeps me up all night. But it can have its effects. It is a caffeinated drink. So let's go ahead and get that going. So what I'm going to do is just start off by pouring a little bit of water into this, and this is called an AeroPress. Kind of looks like a piston. It's a very easy and convenient way to brew really good coffee. Do a process which is called blooming, and all blooming means is it's trying to get the coffee molecules as saturated as possible. So to make sure all of the flavor that's available in this coffee gets exposed to hot water, I like to pour a little bit of water in and let it sit for about 30 seconds. And even during this time, you can also really start to tell what the aromatics of the coffee are. And the aromatics in a coffee are really, really important to the overall flavor profile. In fact, the taste, you're really only getting two tastes. You're tasting sweet and bitter, and sweet and bitter are bouncing back and forth on your taste buds. You only have 5 taste buds. You have 20,000 plus olfactory receptors in your nose. So the what you smell is just as important about what you taste. I'm just going to fill the piston up to the top. Hot water. This is a filter cap. There's a paper filter in here, plastic cap. What we're going to do is we're going to force the coffee through this fine paper filter. So this is what you would determine if you're talking about like what type of coffee brewing processes. This is what we call a filtered coffee. So if you ever see something says this would be good coffee for filtered coffee, all that means is that the coffee is having to either fall through gravity or being pushed through, in this case by force, through a filter. That would be different than, say, an espresso, which is still moving through a screen mesh, but it's using kind of a different process of hot scalding steam. So filtered coffees tend to be more acidic, and they tend to preserve some of the more fruity flavors. Whereas the hot pressure or different ripening methods or towards the chocolatey robusta. So, I'll let this normally I would want to chug it, but when you're drinking coffee, a lot of flavors won't even start to develop until the coffee has reached between 170 and 165 degrees Fahrenheit. This coffee, if I were to put a measure in it, it would be somewhere around 185 degrees. So it's good to actually let your coffee sit for a minute. In fact, a lot of coffee shops will use paper cups. A, because they're convenient. B, COVID. But C, paper cups tend to let a lot of the heat out faster, so the coffee can get to the point of being drinkable, or the flavors can start to develop faster. This is just a thin-walled, cheap glass cup, so the temperature is going to be falling very quickly in this cup. If you are brewing coffee directly into like a Yeti or into a metal-walled thermos, those kind of drinking receptacles will hold heat really, really long, and in fact, you won't get to some of the flavors. A note of a really good coffee. You know you have good coffee, fresh coffee, well-roasted, well-grown coffee. If, as it gets cooler, it gets more and more fruity, or the acid flavors start to show up more and more to the party, you've got a really good roasted coffee. If, as it gets colder, it gets more bitter and it's almost not drinkable, not good coffee. So those are some of the elements about coffee. Whew. It's a strong cup I brewed, but when I roasted this, some of the flavor notes I'm looking for are lemon, apple. Let me check my sheet here. There should also be some chocolate and berry notes kind of bouncing back and forth, and here we are. Did you see any particles of the coffee in your cup? Well, that's a good question. So now just look at how dark this is. You shouldn't really see any particles. In fact, the coffee filter, that's the main purpose of it, is to keep those particles out. Not only is scent very important to coffee, taste very important to coffee, mouthfeel is also an important element of coffee. So if it feels really chalky in your mouth, or if you have chunks of coffee in your mouth, it's not good. But you'll notice here, what you're actually seeing is only 1.5% coffee to water ratio. That's kind of the golden number. Anything above 2%, that means 2% coffee to water. It means water is 98% of coffee. Anything is more than 2%, it's going to have a lot of coffee particles in it. You don't want that because that's when the mouthfeel can get gritty. Anything less than 1% is going to taste very watered down. It's too much water. So anytime you're brewing in any system, you're trying to get into that 1.5 to 1.8% range, and that will give you coffee that looks like this. That will kind of round up the last most important piece. Water is probably the most neglected thing in coffee. So fresh coffee, proper grind, water heat, because the hotter the water is, the more the acid will burn off. The cooler the water it is, the more acid can develop, which, depending on the coffee you have, that will kind of dictate. But then the overall water the overall water quality plays a big role. Things like chlorine will ruin an entire cup of coffee. Soap, if you have like soap residue, that will ruin coffee. But one other thing before I get roasting, and I think it's like my little PSA, do never use distilled water, because the minerals that naturally exist in waters, spring waters, mineral waters, they actually are some of the binding agents that the flavor of the coffee will attach to. So the balance between alkalinities and metals that will help kind of develop the cup. And Barber Vision, this sounds delicious. It is. This coffee, it has... I'll go as far as to say it's not for everyone. And that just means that if you never had coffee before, this is intense, meaning I can immediately pick out 6 unique flavors in here, and they're all very strong. A balanced cup usually means that the flavors are, kind of coming in and out, but the coffee is smooth, the coffee is mellow. It almost doesn't really, once you drink it, it's kind of like a good alcohol. It doesn't like continue to like hang around. But overall, this coffee has a lot of flavor, and it is still smooth. It's a pretty robust cup. What about sparkling water? Might be a dumb question, but just curious. So you don't really want that carbonation. Carbonation doesn't have a flavor, so it's going to interrupt, and I don't know what happens to carbonated water when it gets hot. That's just me being an idiot. If someone else in the chat knows what happens to carbonated water when it turns hot, you can let me know. But yeah, carbonated water or sparkling water, probably not great. But again, that's more from my ignorance than it would be from me giving a suggestion. I would just say, you got tap water, filter it, Brita filter, do something. All right, we'll test it someday. For science, yes. But water quality, I think that's the last. Freshness, grind size, and then water. Those 3 things are the Fat Beans Coffee Iron Triangle. And if you got really good coffee, you might as well get the grind size right, if you can. And then really make sure you don't neglect the water. That's where everybody falls short. And it could be make or break for a really good cup of coffee. So, cheers. Starting to see some people trickle in. Good to have you guys here on a Friday night. So thank you for joining me on your very precious weekend. We're just going to do a quick roast tonight. I want to do the second half of an Ethiopian, a very berry Ethiopian. This will make for a good weekend for me. It also will kind of help me determine if I was right in my premonition I took this too dark. So I have a little bit left upstairs that I medium roasted, and then I'll do a comparison of what I can get this down to light, and we will do a quick comparison. So let's pump up Judy here. Old Jutsi, she's cleaned up, she's ready to go, she's raring to go. So let's get Jutes here, get it warmed up, and we will start The old roast show. Yeah. Any questions? I know I just started the show with a lot, very coffee heavy. I feel if sometimes I can interject a little bit of brewing notes. By no means am I a master brewer. The people you see at coffee shops, well, for the most part, that's their life. They make coffee for a living. That's the masters. So if you have other questions about brewing, I would challenge you to ask coffee shop people. This is their art, but it's also their livelihood. So even though sometimes they can feel unapproachable because they get busy, it is your right as a customer, in my opinion, to ask them as many questions about the coffee they make. I don't think anyone else that considers themselves to be an artist or a professional can get away with kind of hiding their secrets. And you'd be surprised, even though they have, the gruff tattoos and the aggressive facial hair, they are very passionate about coffee. So brewing can be as quickly as just going to your local barista and saying, "What are you doing?" And I guess they'll say it like that, like, "What are you doing?" But as a person who really is inspired by the roast side of it, I do like to try to pass along if I have any brewing notes, because I would hate to roast what I think is just a top-notch coffee and have it get have the experience not carry on to the next person because something as simple as water or water heat or a grind or just the fact that they didn't drink it for like 6 months. So baristaing is like anything in the modern age. You can go to school, you can get licenses. Obviously, that's been somewhat hampered by the COVID or coronavirus pandemic, but it is something you can. Most of the time, if there's a large roastery in your town, they will offer licensing. It behooves roasters to get a lot of people who know what they're doing with coffee. So they'll license baristas, they'll license people with, that just like me, home roasters, and they'll do a lot of education. And in fact, where coffee is growing and expanding the most is in the education. Kind of doing what we're doing here is just showing people why these things happen instead of just saying, "I'm the only person who knows how." Yeah, I have gone to coffee college. Along with that, there are some experts, and we have the internet. I have enrolled into a lot of classes, so part of it's just me pulling some of the stuff out of my ass. No, that there is a lot of good resources on the internet, and I have happened to just enroll in one where it's all kind of in one spot. That's where I spend some time with my craft, especially with my roasting, but also I've been dipping into brewing and growing and farming. So a lot of good information. But yeah, you can get a barista, but a real barista is just one that uses science along with art, tries to create a product that they can replicate, and is one who just doesn't view coffee as a job, but views it as an opportunity to bring really good experience to someone's life or their day. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but I mean, hey, it's true. What got me so interested in coffee? There's a lot I can tell, a lot of stories, and I probably will before the show's over, just to fill time. But honestly, it just, when I started drinking coffee, I was like, there's something more to this than just a drink, because I started looking forward to it. When I'd wake up in the morning and I started thinking about, hey, I'm going to get coffee soon. But then when I go drink coffee, it tasted disgusting. And I was like, so there's something about this drink that is getting my mind really excited, but the product itself is not. And like a lot of people, I thought really, really good coffee is just something you can buy from a coffee shop. Lo and behold, getting on the internet, I realized that some people's best cups of coffee they've ever had is actually something they can create at home. And that's really, think about how rare that is for so many things. Like, normally the best food you're ever going to eat might not be able to be accessible at home just because of all the different cooking equipment and ingredients and all those different things. Or the best clothes you'll ever wear, or the best fitting clothes won't probably be something you can make. But coffee, you can get a find it fresh roast, and something as cheap and as simple as this. It was one of those products that I didn't need to do a ton of things for it to start to turn into all as good or better than what I was getting at a coffee shop. And to me, that really is what sparked my interest, because it's very rare that you can start to do something yourself and create such a great product. And I can say this with all honesty. Like, if you follow just some very basic steps, coffee will go from just being something you look forward to because of either caffeine or because it's your fix. But if you drink it right, meaning without a lot of additives, which is tough to do if it's not good, but if you can drink it right, it's really good for your health. Plus, coffee can taste really good. I'm not just like being pretentious when I'm like, oh, these flavors are in here. That's the flavors that are in this cup. So the fact that I just did this in my basement at 8:30 at night, it's just really what got me very interested in coffee. And I started out roasting in August, and I loved it. A lot of people that roast, they go, roasting can be a drag, roasting can be a bummer. This is my 120th roast now. I just enjoy it. I like how all of my senses are engaged. I like how it's consistent. It's kind of calming. I tend to have a very hyperactive brain. Just having a place where I can come down here and really create something incredible with just watching it, a little bit of science, a little bit of patience. It's pretty great. Any updates on the new roaster? New roaster will be here Tuesday. Now, will the roast room be ready for a new roaster on Tuesday? I don't know. My guess is that the new roaster, you will probably this time next week, I will be doing some of my early piloting on the new roaster. Now, I will have to warn you, those shows might be some of the first shows I cuss in. Just because if you will notice, if you're a diehard, dyed-in-the-wool beanhead, you'll notice I didn't even start the roasting show letting people see what I was doing until I'd done it 50 times on here. That means I'd roasted 50 times before I even let another human see me fumble around down here. With the new roaster, it's going to be all eyes on me roast one. So I will do roast shows on it, but it's going to be raw in the sense that new roaster it's going to take some time to get used to. It is very different. This would equate to if you only cooked using a toaster oven and then you had a full gas grill with copper pots and, boiling pots and roasting pans, and the amount of tools that this roaster will have, even though it's still a home roaster, is going to be light years above what old Jutes here is. Do I have a name yet? No. That's on you. That's on the Bean team. I'm really counting on you guys, and I want you to make sure you do give her or him a good name, or it, or they, or whatever you want to call it. I want you to make sure you give it a good name. So maybe you'll have to watch a couple of shows. Or Judy too. Man, I'm kind of partial on Judy too. This is your first time watching me roast on Fat Beans. This is the Fat Beans Roasting Laboratory. And what we're doing what you're seeing is we're taking green coffee beans and we're trying to dry them out right now. So we're moving from bean cams, not playing ball. There. Bean cam says it's the weekend. Elmo. I'll be honest with you, Barber Vision. Elmo is probably the most creative name I've gotten. Most of them have been some sort of pun. I don't want you guys to work too hard trying to pun it to the machine. Elmo is just random enough that Elmo has shot to the top. But what we're doing is we're trying to dry the beans out in an effort to get them brown and roasted. Ideally, we're shooting for Elroy. Oh, Elroy. I see. We're shooting to get these beans up to about 400 degrees Celsius, at which point they will start to crack or burst open a lot like popcorn. At that point, the coffee is roasted, and anything we do from there is just changing the flavor of it. With this coffee, we want to get it to start popping. We want it to, most of the beans to experience that first crack. We want to cut the heat, and that's going to be what we call a light roast or a city roast. I wonder how many roasts he'll do on the new one before he'll let me try it. You know what, Jay Brogan? I mean, this is a family effort. So I say number one. You want to come down here and be the first person to roast on whatever it's called? You get on down here. I'm excited to get a sneak peek at that. I mean, I guess that's definitely going to have to be a show. It's going to be called Julie Roasts. And then once Julie starts to roast, I'm out of business then. She's got the mind for business. Then she'll know how to roast. It'll be packed bags, ass on street from that minute on. I'll probably have had it coming, though. Yeah, so right now the air is starting to get a little bit heavier. Starting to get a little bit taste of roast and smoke. What I'm smelling is the water inside the beans is starting to evaporate, and it's starting to fill up the air. So, kick on exhaust. Another tenement of the new roaster will be an exhaust pipe. With the new roaster, with the new capacity, there's going to be a lot more smoke. So there will have to be something here that does a lot better with roast suppression. Elroy. I don't know. Elroy is good, but I'm thinking Elmo. I'm thinking Elmo the roaster. We're about 6.5 minutes in and doing good. So. Hopefully everyone's had a better week. What about Astro Est? We can name the roaster Need More Coffee. Need Mo Coffee. We just call it Mo. Is that how it go down? Need Mo Coffee. Just calls it Mo. I don't hate that. I like that. All right, I see that. Just call the roaster Mo. Guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of gonna miss Judy. You guys are sitting here telling me to talk about the new roaster. You're asking me for new names, and all the while, I'm gonna miss. It's gonna look like. Not gonna look like I'm roasting on ass roast. That kind of sounds like ass roast, though. I don't think that gets the wrong idea if you're like, hey, I'm just gonna pop over here and fire up the ass roaster. I don't know. I might. I'll put it in the old mine box here, but I like that it kind of incorporates the Astros. But yeah, it kind of sneakingly comes across as ass roast. My thoughts exactly. Anyway, good. I hope everyone's having a good week. Hoping it's at least a better week than the previous week. I know the weather here has been head and shoulders better. I think we're supposed to get up to 67. And you know what I like about spring is that the weather person usually undersells it. So my hope is to get to 70. And if it's 70 before March, I'm living life again. Days are getting a lot easier to enjoy. If you're looking, what am I seeing? This particular coffee is about a minute away from first crack. The air is definitely a lot more smoky in here. So it is... We should be getting to the point where we want to be here in about a minute. That will be false spring. I don't know. I mean, Kansas City is Midwest. It's looking there to trick you, but it generally doesn't get stupid cold again. Now, it might snow again. That's definitely on the plate. But I think our stupid cold days are probably behind us. That is one benefit from being just a bit lower, is that stupid cold is a little bit lower than that. Hey, Beanheads, we're putting in a new order. Any suggestion? Really, besides country of origin, I would say, is there any particular flavor notes that you want me to try to harness? Meaning, are you looking for me to try to roast towards more sugar, chocolate, caramel, or continue to really try to chase down the fruits? Okay, so we're in our first crack over here. Chocolatey? So chocolate always sounds the best. And in fact, that's where Starbucks made all their success, is on chocolate. Kumquat, yeah. For the most part, chocolate is the easiest thing to roast. In fact, I can make any bean mimic chocolate. I'll explain here in a second. So with all honesty, chocolate is a flavor that doesn't... It's not like the beans are chocolate, but much like chocolate itself, the flavor of chocolate can really come out with the roast level. So chocolate... Still here. She's still firing away in here. So chocolate and coffee will really start, no matter what coffee bean you have, chocolate is a flavor that tends to be on the darker side. When you hear people that like medium roast, it's because that is where bittersweet is not so bitter that it starts to trick the brain into thinking that the quality that makes up chocolate is actually in the bean. So the chocolate flavor, the bean does have to have some natural sugars, because the sugars need to get just, that's where you're going to get that bitter flavor from when the sugars start to burn, just burnt enough that your mind thinks that it's chocolate. In fact, what Starbucks does to their beans, whether it's intentional or it's because they roast in such high quantities, Starbucks tends to put a little bit of a burnt taste on their beans. They tend to just taste a little bit burnt, which you'd be like, gross, burnt coffee. But when you mix that kind of burn taste with cream or sugar... Hi, Haley Meekum. Welcome to the Fat Beans Roast Laboratory. We're just getting ready to complain about Starbucks for a little bit. So if you showed up looking for a middle-aged man to sit in his basement and whine about Starbucks, you're in the right place. But welcome in. Beanheads, embrace the new follower. I drank Starbucks today. Well, again, Starbucks is good because if you're drinking coffee, then you're on the path to where you want to be. But where Starbucks kind of falls short is that their coffee is roasted to need cream and sugar. So they will actually burn it, and when they put the cream and sugar in, you're getting that kind of chocolatey taste. And that's Starbucks makes a lot of money on that, and people really enjoy it because that's the flavor. So what you're asking me to do by putting chocolate in is I need to start getting a bean that can be roasted a little bit darker, but hold on and grab that chocolate flavor, but also hold on to some of the balance so it doesn't get that nasty bitter taste when it gets cold. So we may pick up a Nicaraguan, Costa Rican, or Colombian. Those three are notorious for being able to go dark and hold on to some of their flavors. As for this Ethiopian, these tend to like to stay nice and light. Because an Ethiopian, you could get some of that chocolate flavor, but the problem with Ethiopians is because they have so much acidity in them that once you burnt the acidity off, they tend to taste very chalky or charcoaly. They are a much more fragile bean, so they don't take the medium and darker heats well. So you really would never want to do something like this too dark because it would taste like charcoal. And charcoal is not a good taste. So there's the Ethiopian for you. And really with an Ethiopian, and there's some chaff in here, we'll clear that out. But this one has a nice purple hue, so got the full spectrum light, but I got a little bit of a shadow, but that is not your eyes tricking you. Get it out of this blue container. It's actually a purpley haze that's on this. So that is actually that's the coffee fruit that's in there. We drink Starbucks here. Just don't mention Keurig's Fat Beans Coffee Lab. He gets judgy. I do. Starbucks is fine because again, Starbucks is pushing you to the idea that okay, I like coffee. I like the ritual. I really like drinking coffee. It adds a big part of my day. Then the next challenge from Fat Beans Coffee Labs is, coffee can taste good without cream and sugar. And then you go, oh wow, so then if coffee doesn't have cream and sugar, it's probably really healthy for you. It is. So, Starbucks is just a very important part of the path. And now that you've entered the old bean laboratory, you're on the path. Why is the yellow line not as pronounced on this Ethiopian? Good question, Aweb. So this is what we call a dry process, meaning that the fruit wasn't washed off. With Africans, that yellow line means that it was washed. It went through a washing station, and the African beans in particular, now some Central Americans, some South Americans have those lines, but the African beans in particular will tend to have those yellow lines if they are dry processed. So now, if you ever open up a bag of Ethiopians and you don't see yellow lines, you immediately know that Ethiopian is probably going to be fruity. If it has yellow lines, it's going to be more acidy, more towards the lemon flavor or peach flavor. Without, it's going to be more towards the berry, strawberry, blueberry flavor, depending on where it was roasted. So a lot can be garnered simply by looking at the bean. You know how dark it was roasted. To an extent, you know what kind of process it was, and you also can tell one more thing, but we're not quite there in the education field yet. Couldn't help yourself with that one, AA Web. It's Friday. Let it rip. I'll give you what everyone came here to see. So, very good looking medium roast. Beans look good. And this particular bean really is a nice, even roast. And that's my biggest failure. I come in here like Charlie Brown every time, being like, man, Awebb's not going to do a pun, and we're gonna have a good show. But every time I open up my mouth, you're right, I just set you up. I'm the person I get mad at. I'm not mad at you, Awebb. I'm mad at me. Because really what I do is I fuel you. You're fire. You're going to burn. That's what you do. Your puns are just fire. And I am just the pun gasoline. Just throwing it all over the fire. You won't have to shake. I won't. Wow, looks great. Darker than normal. It's actually not darker than normal. Well, au contraire. This is much lighter than this same bag I did. How do you know it's much lighter? You haven't tasted it yet. I put a bean in my mouth. I chew it. If it sticks, it's kind of gummy, it's lighter. If it breaks up, it's much darker. Yeah, but Awebb, I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to your puns. So, looks good. Fire, yeah. When it comes to puns, you are the Blaze. No doubt about that. Alright, so. Anyway. So let's shoot the fat here and see what we're going to do tomorrow. Because I do want to do a kitchen show. We've done a couple of roast shows, a lot of roast shows in a row. So it's time to get back in the kitchen and have a little fun and watch me look like a goon for a while. Which, I mean, that's why you're here. But anyway, JMCD311, are you in the chat? I haven't checked. And we'll see if he's here. You tried a roasted bean. I mean, roasted beans are pretty good. It's the most primitive way to test an overall bean. You can actually get a lot out of it, but yeah, it's an intense flavor experience. Awebb, why don't you tell us how your coffee experience has been going, since you did get some of your fat beans? And Jay Brogren, do different origins of beans have different intensity of color for dark and light? Yes, different origins of beans do have different intensities. This Ethiopian, the reason it looks more dark is because it has a purple hue to it. That purple hue is going to make it seem darker than it is. In particular, certain Sumatrans, Indonesians, they are going to be a lot more rough brown looking, so they might be somewhat spotted. It is a testament to the different levels of humidity that they are exposed to. So yeah, the different origins will, but for the most part, you can kind of just tell by the eye. Guatemalans tend to be they follow the color chart the best. So we might even do a Guatemalan down here next, just so you can see what ideal or the most commercial looking bean looks like. I think I like Ethiopian better, seen less acid. That's actually would be that's interesting that you say that. So the Costa Rican was brewed to be more chocolatey, less acid, but you seem to think the Ethiopian. Now the only other thing that might have happened to Awebb is I might have mismarked the bags. And so again, we're still early in the roasting world. We'll be trying the Costa Rican with a spot of cream. Okay? If the Costa Rican's tasting like acid, the cream's not gonna help. The Ethiopian's rock solid. I just got here. Rewind everything. Well, no need. That's not the point of the roast show. now you get your own special show, Vegetable Beard, and let me tell you, welcome in. No, you're not wrong. You know what you like. So really, if you want to try it with cream, try it with cream. It's your coffee. Anyway, so tomorrow, first, I want to open it up to the public. Any thoughts about what we should do for tomorrow? I'll just sit here and listen to the sweet, sweet serenades of an exhaust fan. It is Beans After Dark. So it is now, we have entered into the newest segment. What some might argue is the best segment, but here we are in Beans After Dark. So really what we want to try to do is we're trying to scheme out what we want to do tomorrow. Now, I don't want to oversell it, but something I've been working on for a while, I think I'm going to have the ability to put it together, but I don't want to bombard anybody or sign anyone up to something. So yeah, JMCD 311 will be here tomorrow. That's the plan. I don't want to oversell it though. But that is the plan, and I think the show that we've been trying to do with him for a long time, that is what we're going to try to do. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to do that. So the thumbs up makes me think that that will be the show that we do. So the much anticipated JMCD 311 taste test, probably going to be my hardest customer to flip to the coffee world. If we can get him, we will go. So tomorrow night, you're going to see what 66 years of fighting against coffee, if we can turn it with 1 to 2 hour segment of drinking coffee at 8 o'clock at night in somebody's basement. Tune in for that. Are you going to discuss coffee-centric meat rubs? That's the plan. I think really what's going to be important, Vegetable Beard, is you come in and you ask those questions. We're going to really rely on the chat to really ask these questions and hit me with those real time. So you're going to want to leverage his barbecue knowledge, but he doesn't have much coffee knowledge. So the first step is going to be to get him up to speed, and then we can do that. Cruising little bro back from the casino. I decided a hot dog is not a hoat. I mean, all right. When it's applying the rub, is it best to wax on or wax off? These are all questions you have to save as we get baby beans here in the brew laboratory. What about coffee drinking without whipped cream? I don't recommend it. Gene, if whipped cream is what brings you joy in the morning, it's what gets you out of bed, and it's what gets you loving coffee, drink your whipped cream. Now, if you're worried about the health benefits of whipped cream and you want to start exploring the world of coffee, black coffee, you come talk to me. We'll see if we can't get you a nice little substitute there. No, really, massage in the rub. I have answers. So, he has answers for all of your barbecue inquiries. You just need to bring them tomorrow. So you need to leverage him. And if we can't seem to get all the information we need from him tomorrow night, well, we'll just have to bring him back. The shape of the bun does not equal hoagie. I still think hot dog's a sandwich, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. So excited to hear them. Yes, so be sure that you tune in tomorrow night, 8:30, same place, and we will see what we can do. Balls. No, we're done. Bad Beans Laboratory has officially made the stand. Hot dog, sandwich. You heard it here first. The Fat Bean has spoken. Save the whipped cream for Gus. Only if you're practicing karate. So, that's the plan. Well, yeah, I told you. I told you last night. Well, 2 nights ago. The reason I didn't want to get into this is a hot dog, a sandwich thing, is because it confounds my entire life. Like, it really... I think about it all the time because it starts to open it up. Hot dog is pretty easy sandwich, but then you have to ask yourself, is a pot pie a sandwich? Because it's clearly not a pie. Is a quesadilla a sandwich? Is a taco a sandwich? Is pizza a sandwich? To which I say yes to all of them. They're all sandwiches. And these are the kind of moral quandaries that question opens up for me. Hot dogs are hot dogs and sandwiches are sandwiches. Venn diagram is two separate circles. No, it's not. See, it's your pig-headedness that keeps dragging me back into this argument. I just don't see how a hot dog gets to exist as its own thing. A hot dog is a sandwich, and it's not even a good sandwich. It's like a really inferior sandwich. Hot dog. What? I'm not even gonna do it. Pot pie is a pie. No, a pot pie is not a pie. A pot pie, if by all definition, is just a really sloppy sandwich. No, they're not. No. We will not let you guys turn against me. A hot dog it's the epitome of a sandwich. It's bologna. It's just if you took a bologna roll and didn't cut it and put it in a bun. Because it's a great part of baseball? No, being a part of baseball doesn't make it not a sandwich. Just because something involves bread does not mean it's a sandwich. How is it not? I mean, bread it has no other purpose in food except for to turn things into sandwiches. Tell me what the point of putting things on bread is other than to make it a sandwich. You answer me that. Answer me that. You put something on bread, it's a sandwich. Do you consider a hamburger a sandwich? Yes. Hamburger is a sandwich. That's the easiest one tonight. Hamburger, sandwich. Don't start this if it's hot, it's not a sandwich. That just doesn't hold water. Because then you open up all these cans of worms that a panini is not a sandwich. Panini is a sandwich. Is bratwurst a sandwich? Yeah. All no. Just because you don't want it to be so, then what's the point of the bread? That's my only question. You answer me that. Why is the bread in here? If they're not sandwiches, then why the bread? The bread brings nothing to it other than to make it handheld and easy to eat. And sandwich to me is just handheld and easy to eat. Pot pie is the most confounding of those because it's not easy to eat. Here's one to wrap your minds around. Is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich a sandwich, or is it just a sloppy pie? Because how is peanut butter and jelly sandwich not a pie? That's what you should ask yourself. Not if a pot pie is a pie, but is the peanut butter and jelly sandwich a pie? I say yes. Bread makes it more filling. So, again, that doesn't answer my question about why it's a depression thing. A sandwich is a depression thing. The sandwich didn't exist until people had to go climb up on steel beams and sit on their little girders and eat their little sandwiches. That's all a sandwich is. So if the bread is making it more convenient to eat, it's a sandwich. You don't bake a PB&J. That doesn't... Now pies have to be baked? Is a pie that's not baked not a pie? Does a pie that's not baked not feel? I still like the fact that sauerkraut is lettuce. I mean, in its most infant form, it is. A bratwurst sandwich. I'm not doing it. Anyway. You bake the bread. See, thank you, AWeb. I can't believe that you and I have found such common ground on this ridiculous pie sandwich argument. Well, not even the pie sandwich, the hot dog sandwich argument. AWeb is the only person who wants to even attach yourself somewhat to a reality where facts have to be facts. And the fact is, the bread's only purpose is to make it easier to eat. And if that bread makes it easier to eat, and really if it has bread wrapped around it, sandwich. I'm hungry. That's probably the best way to sum up this entire sandwich, not sandwich argument. I feel like the entire Twitch program could just be me coming down here 2 hours every single night and screaming about sandwiches. I think there's probably it's $1 million idea. Are cabbage rolls lettuce rolls? Now we're moving on to cabbage. Pie crust isn't bread. How is it not bread? What's bread? I guess that's the real question we're not asking ourselves. How is cabbage and lettuce any different? I mean, let's be honest. Cabbage and lettuce really that different? See? Dang it. Can somebody... AWeb, she's the beacon of truth. Just the bastion of truth. AWeb 87. Called unleavened. Yeah, exactly. And then, now, quesadilla. Sandwich. Or sandwich. Wow, we really put that one to the test. Sure, that made for some great Twitch television there, screaming about middle-aged man finishes roasting coffee in basement, screams about sandwiches for 30 minutes. News at 11. Yeah, where is the Jill McDonald 311? She'll confirm that pie crust isn't bread. I can't wait for this one. Yes, Jill McDonald 311. Is it bread? And then it's bread. It's bread. You know it's bread. Vegetable beard. You're just grasping at straws. Grabbing at straws that aren't there, my friend. These sandwich arguments must end. They're tearing the bean team asunder. They're destroying what this beautiful team that we've created. We just must agree. The hot dog is a sandwich. And an inferior sandwich at that. I think it was too much for Jill McDonald 311. Too much. She had to go. She said, won't be a part of this madness. Silence equals guilt. Yeah, it is. She knows that your ship is sunk, Vegetable Beard. She knows that what she has to tell you will crush you. It will rock you to your hipster core. Pie crust is not bread. Too flaky to be bread. Too flaky? Well, now we're gonna argue flaky? Flaky? You gotta bring me something better than flaky. You can argue a process. You could have argued rising, but you went after flaky? Flaky? And then Vegetable Beard's gonna just try to come in with no science, no facts? Flaky? Come on! Too flaky. You know what? That argument's flaky. The argument's flaky. Argument's flaky. Too flaky. Too flaky. I don't even know what that is. Like, I don't know how to respond to that. Unless you... Flaky. You had everything. You had all the opportunities to just crush. And then for Vegetable Beard, to use 2 asterisks in all caps. You come into this chat, this safe place, this place where we all join for a little bit of social entertainment, and you use all caps and 2 asterisks for flaky to defend flaky. You don't know what it is. You can say my argument is too flaky. I'm just saying, so if I have bread that's flaky, it's not bread anymore? Like... I just don't get it. In my mind, so cake's bread then, because cake's not flaky and it acts like bread. So now cake is flaky. Stream Elements is trying to stitch us back together. What a trooper. The robots will save us. Too much Elon Musk coming on here and saying that robots are going to be our end. Let Stream Elements show you that robots will bring us back together. No. Don't put that much stress on our marriage. Don't do it. Don't you jump on this flaky camp. Don't do it. Too flaky. Pastries are different than bread. See? That's at least I can get okay. Or okay. But see what you did there is you created a new class, a pastry. You didn't pull what it is. You didn't pull a quality. And then AWeb right there. I think we're just gonna have to call it what it is. It's just we might never get to the bottom of this. You know, I don't think, because now see what Vegetable Beard has done is he's got us arguing semantics about pie crust, when really the real argument is that hot dog is sandwich. And hot dog is so much a sandwich that we're over here arguing about the flakiness of pie crust. That we've allowed all of these different things to really deviate from the main argument. Cracker is also bread. It is. Cracker's bread. Cookies bread too. All bread. Pastries are bread too. Bread. All right, guys. Let's refocus here. So how about these beans? Ooh. Okay, so tomorrow then, the plan is we bring in baby beans to learn what taste is tasting like. This particular... I gotta find some crab. Whoa. Oh, carbs. This is the Ethiopian. We did this one last week, and this is the second half of the batch. It is a dry processed Ethiopian. We're trying to get some berry and raspberry flavors out of this. So that is that, and I will give you a little sneak peek here, V-Beard, since you just got here. So classic Ethiopian, got a purple hue, and we've roasted it to really try to manipulate as much of the fruity taste that we can out of here. And it is delicious. So, the new roaster just for you. Again, Vegetable Beard, since we'll relive our whole lives just for you. I know, that's what I saw crabs. But the new roaster should be here on Tuesday, and I think the first time we have our maiden roast will be this time Friday next week. So 1 week from today, mark it in your calendars. The new roaster comes down to the Fat Beans Roasting Laboratory, and we give her a run. So, old Judy, been good, but it's time for us to kick it up a notch. What are we going to name it, the new roaster? Judy 2 is the current leader in the clubhouse, but there's been a lot of good ones, including Elmo and Ass Roaster. Is that right, AWeb? Ass Roaster? So, Ass Roaster and Elmo are also there with Judy as well, or Judy 2. We should have it in. That's a big should. I have to actually add new electricity and also new exhaust so that I don't ruin my entire house roasting in my basement. But the new roaster, with all things going exactly right, we should be roasting on it, and that will be roast 1. None of this starting at roast 50. Roast 1 on the new roaster will be done live for all of you in our Twitch audience to see. So it's going to be a learning Judy 2 shoes. It's going to be a learning curve for all of us. So, but it should be here Tuesday. I should have everything installed and ready to go by the Friday show. Tomorrow, the Baby Bean show. We're going to try to get him to like coffee, whether he wants to or not. And B, we're going to try to leverage some of his barbecue knowledge in an effort to see if we can't start the combination of coffee and barbecue here in the Fat Beans Laboratory. But speaking of bread, I have some cookies waiting for the big guy. So, as always, glad to see everyone back. Glad that we got nowhere on the hot dog sandwich debate, but it is a good use of the platform, I guess, to sit down here and argue about it. So I appreciate that. Even though you're wrong, Vegetable Beard, you're wrong. I did enjoy it. Wait, no, cookies are bread too. This madness has to stop. Nope, it won't stop. You brought this, Bardo. But anyway, as always, stay caffeinated. Stay feeling good. Stay adventurous. If you're thinking about, hey, I hear all the time how black coffee is good for you. Can't wait. JMCD 311 got pulled into another podcast. Anyway, can't wait to, if you're ever wondering, hey, I'm wanting to try black coffee, go to your local coffee shop, ask for a pour over, try black coffee, and just experience how great it can be. If you're within 50-mile radius of me, contact me. I will try to, I can roast you up some beans. If you're a little bit further than that, we'll see what we can do. All right. This is a safe space for these hard-hitting questions. He's in another podcast right now. Whose podcast is he in?
You betray us for.
Who's the betrayer? The beanheads need to know. What podcast is he in right now?
Who would dare compete with me?
Guess we'll never know. All right. Well, as always, I'm glad we had Matt McDonald's. Oh, I see how it is. I see. Oh, I see. But anyway, as always, it's been a silly goose time, but